Well, I've been asked to share a little bit about the ICAC vision, and the ICAC stands for International Community of Alliance Churches. And we started with the International Community of Alliance Churches about 14 years ago, 2001. And we did it to accommodate some of the things that we read in scriptures. One of the cool things that I've seen in the scriptures is it found in Revelation chapter 7, where it says, and this is John writing, he says, "After this I looked, and there before me was a great multitude that no one could count, from every nation, tribe, people, and language, standing before the throne and before the Lamb. And they were wearing white robes and holding palm branches in their hands. And they cried out in a loud voice, 'Salvation belongs to our God, who sits on the throne, and to the Lamb.'" And so the end of time, there's going to be this awesome gathering of all the nations around the throne. And so with that in mind, when the former pastor here, Pastor Mike, and I started talking about what are we going to do with all these trees and our land, we have 5 acres of land, we started catching this vision, this idea that maybe it would be a place for all the nations to gather in one place, and that God would be glorified through that. So our building actually reflects that whole idea of people worshiping in one place in their mother tongue and praying together, but that when they exit from worshiping God, then there's this large fellowship room that we're in right now where people can have coffee with one another, where they can sit in a lounge and just enjoy one another's fellowship. And so this idea that fellowship across culturally has become very important to us, and that's why the building reflects those values with the coffee area and a lounge area and a large space where people can just mingle standing around. And I think now Paul's going to share a little bit how his church got involved in this whole thing.
As you might know, that the OMAC was planted almost 20 years ago by our mother church. In the beginning, it was a campus outreach and Mandarin ministry project. So we were actually looking for a land or a building to have our own ministry base. And maybe 10 years ago, I think that our former pastor heard that ICAC has this desire to develop a multicultural ministry. So we actually, we came and have a sharing with Pastor Bill and other ICAC co-workers and ICAC members.
So that was 10 years ago, and it was interesting because it was the Mandarin church that kind of instigated this whole thought process that we would have a multicultural church here. And so I called Pastor Jack C. of the Ottawa Mandarin Church and asked if they'd be interested in discussing whether we could join together and have a joint children's ministry and a joint youth ministry. And they said yes.
Yes. And God really starts stirring our heart and make this vision to become possible, because then in a few years, we not only figure out that we need a building, we also realize the importance of the English youth children, the whole second generation ministry. So more and more of our congregation, we realize and appreciate this kingdom concept. So that's the reason this time we saw the guidance from our former senior pastor, Reverend Jack Shea, and from our leadership team, we figured out that this is the opportunity we should grasp, because this is really, after many years of prayer, I think this is the vision God has implanted in our hearts.
been a real privilege for me to get to know Pastor Paul and the whole Mandarin congregation, and just seeing their passion for reaching people for Christ and wanting to develop a ministry here. One of the great things has been working with people. Every Saturday we have a work day, and all the volunteers come, and we get to eat together and get to know one another. And so I've gotten to know the Chinese congregation quite well just by working side by side with them, and just seeing their zeal to work on the church, to build the church physically, but also spiritually, and their desire to reach Chinese students who've come and immigrated to Canada is really exciting. And I hope that rubs off on our congregation as well, as we reach out to whoever we're reaching out to, that we'll cross-pollinate our passions that way with one another.
And the Mandarin congregation was really surprised and shocked when we moved in April, because before we moved in, we knew that ICAC is is a congregation embrace different cultural ethnic group. But every Sunday before the service or after service, when you stand or sit in the foyer, you see people not only from Canada, not only from China, Taiwan, but from Latin America, from African countries, that just go back to what Pastor Bill shared in Revelation 7. You see people from different cultural, ethnic, language background coming here, even many people from Middle East. We worship in our own language and in our culture, but we also truly worship in one single true God. I think that's the to me personally, that's a foretaste of what we will do in heaven. So to me and to my congregation, this is a great opportunity and to learn, and to learn that God's faithfulness has been leading us for so many years. In the beginning, it was a simple desire for building, and then the partnership and learning opportunity for second generation ministry. And then when we really come to Eastgate, we know that this is a gospel base for Ottawa East, and also for many Mandarin-speaking congregation to understand this is a great opportunity to learn how to do multicultural ministry together. So I really appreciate that God has led us so far, and I believe that the God's grace and God's guidance will continue to surprise us day after day.